Hello everybody, good afternoon, and welcome to another official Elder Scrolls Legends Weekly stream. I'm Christian Van Hoos, the community manager, and I'm joined by the man, the myth, and the legend, Pete Hines.
Oh, that was referring to me.
Yes.
Hello, how are you?
Engaged mud crab.
Everybody's here.
Yeah, we have a very special weekly stream. As you all might know, we normally just sit here and play Legends and answer some questions. But if you've been paying attention, we've had some pretty incredible news recently. Very big changes coming to the Elder Scrolls Legends as we are transitioning from Direwolf Digital to Sparkypants in the development of this game. And throughout the day, I've been listening to some feedback, and I have not even one, but 2 pages of questions we're going to go through, talk about some of your feedback. Try to answer as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, and obviously, if you guys have questions about Legends or the transition or any of the things that we've been getting asked, feel free to add them to the chat. We'll sort of pull from the chat as we go along, answer the questions off of Reddit. Again, if this is 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. If we're here an hour, we'll stay here an hour. We want to do the best that we can to answer your questions and give you some sense of where we're going and, quite honestly, why it is that we're both excited.
Yeah,
so
these are big changes. Thank you very much for having the patience to go along with us and trust in the game moving forward. We're very excited about it.
So hold on a second,
yeah.
Wes. Somebody's saying louder. They can't hear us. You guys can't hear us?
Everyone always says louder. There is no level at which it's too loud.
I am a playable character. In Legends, I'm known as a Fighters Guild recruit. That's
yes.
the only game in which I am a playable character.
And you're pretty playable.
I am.
Too.
I am pretty playable.
Above average.
Yeah, I am aware that we've talked about and announced other games as a publisher. I am not answering any questions about those. This is a Legends stream. We'll be talking about Elder Scrolls Legends today.
Yeah, I'm just perfectly clueless on all the other titles, so I'm not
as
even...
well you should be,
yes,
Legends
exactly.
boy. All right.
Okay.
What do we got? Why don't you start us off with one of the questions off of Reddit?
Well, let's start us off with a question relating to the beginning of this transition. Ben Jappel asks, how long have you been working on this change? Is it something you've been planning since before the Houses of Morrowind expansion? If so, did the transition have any effect on how you approached the transition, or how you approached the expansion? And this was before my time. Before I was even here.
That is true.
Yeah.
We actually have been working with Sparkypants since last year. As you may or may not have seen from yesterday's announcement, an FAQ, this is not somebody else taking over the existing game and code base. They have rewritten the game from scratch, from the bottom up. And so obviously their first goal was to rewrite and recreate the game as it exists today, right now, the cards that we've got, all the rules and mechanics and all of that stuff. We've talked about, hinted at some of the first round of UI changes, and I do want to emphasize that point, which is that we are not looking at this as this is the new UI and that's it, and that's as far as we're going. This is just sort of for this first transition and this first version. When Sparkypants' version goes up, that will be the first pass. But one of the reasons why we're excited is the ability to continue to change and iterate on that stuff a lot going forward. But back to the question, this has been started since last year. They have been writing every line of code from scratch, from the ground up, and as far as content, no, there was no requirements of like, well, you can't do this or you can't do that because of this other thing. We have continued to work on the existing game of Legends, sort of say, okay, there's going to be a prolonged maintenance that's going to start today, and when the game comes back up, it'll be this new game.
Yeah, and I heard about this first actually during my interview process, which was in late January. So at that point, it was already definitely in the works, definitely begun. So everything we've seen in the game for the last few months, all the developments you've seen, all the bug fixes, everything like that, that's been one version of the game. And throughout all of that, in the background, there has been essentially a second version of Legends being created. So the next question, pretty general from DQ Joe here. The main question he wants to ask is why Sparkypants was selected as the new development team?
I mean, there's a number of reasons. I think their locality to us is certainly a plus. It definitely wasn't. It's not like we just said, "Hey, game developers within 20 miles of us, who's around?" Because
they're not quite that close, but they are pretty close.
There aren't that many of those, it turns out. But look, they had a lot of experience working in strategy genre. They had a lot of experience in Unity. We really liked their excitement and their passion.
Unity?
It's a code base.
Okay.
It's actually what It's also what the current version of Legends runs in, but it's very flexible, fungible, works across a lot of different platforms, and they felt like they could, and they've proved this, honestly, iterate and build really quickly. Like, that's actually been really fun part of this. I know you've gotten to see this, where we see new builds like multiple times a day.
Yeah,
we get a new
insane.
build every single day. Like, it's not a case where, and I've been at this company for 19 years. I've worked with a lot of developers on a lot of different kinds of games. You can go weeks without seeing a build sometimes. These guys are adamant about they have a play session every day where they play matches and they take feedback on that, and they figure out. They
literally sit down. They have 2 people play a game of Legends
in front of the whole studio.
Yeah, everyone else sits down and watches. And they garner feedback afterwards, just specifically in that game. What are the things they can change, iterate on, improve? And the goal is by the next day's play session to have fixed or at least attacked those things. And they're very close. Like I said, I've been to them. They've been here, including yesterday when we had several influencers here to check out Legends and get some more feedback. It's been a joy to talk with them, and the new builds just pop up at least once a day, sometimes several times. Steam just keeps downloading things, so it's really good to see that much.
No, you guys don't need to wait.
Go for it.
Yeah, ask questions. I mean,
we'll make sure at the end if we missed anything to get them in there too. But go for it.
I'm controlling the mouse here, so I'm scrolling back up to make sure we don't miss stuff. So I saw a question about will the store change? I mean, I love that I can just play and earn gold to unlock everything, no paywalls. That's absolutely not changing.
No.
I mean, and not just that. Everything about the game and sort of how it works right now, like, nothing's being removed.
The goal here isn't to just build a new Legends, it's to keep everything we already love about Legends and improve upon what we can at that point.
Yeah, so like, the store won't change in terms of everything that is still true. Like, I don't have to spend money if I don't want to. I can just earn all this stuff. Absolutely still true. We don't plan to change. We think the game is pretty generous in terms of rewards and daily rewards and login rewards and all that stuff. Like, we want to continue to build and grow on that kind of stuff. I did see this. We actually got asked this yesterday by a number of the folks. Will there be an API made for all the tools the streamers use to track decks and whatnot? Absolutely. Like, this has actually been on our request list for a couple of years now in terms of API support and the kinds of stuff that we want to do. We want to do even more kinds of stuff on Twitch. We want to allow the community and content creators, deck builders, this might be a good place to talk about. Like, one of the things that I've been a proponent of for a very long time is a far easier way for folks to share decks. That you're reading an article that Parker writes on our site about some of the top decks from the Champions Series, that you ought to be able to simply and easily add those decks to your deck builder and see which cards do I own, what cards don't I own. That if you've got CVH on your friends list, that you could see what decks he's been playing with or what he played in a gauntlet mode, and actually look at that deck list in your game and say, like, oh, I want to build this, or I know what cards to craft. So we want to push even more on adding those kinds of things. And again, why Sparkypants? Well, because we think they have the technical ability to do all of these kinds of things, and the reason that they're building the game from the ground up is to not be beholden to any decisions that were made previously that may not make some of those things quite as easy, that they're building it in a way to allow us to be more flexible and fungible, to be faster, whether that means performance increases. I saw somebody ask, like, hey, is there gonna be a speed up? Like, we're definitely looking to see increased performance, decreased maintenance time. Like, we want to start to measure maintenance windows in minutes instead of hours. Like, we want to get I think it might be in your questions, but
probably.
I also saw it on Reddit about mobile. Somebody's like, hey, I only play over cellular, and so I'm really worried, like, what does this mean for mobile or bandwidth stuff? Like, actually, one of the big things for us, it doesn't matter as much the current players, but we want new players to be able to download it over cellular, because the client will be small enough that you won't need Wi-Fi. So you can instantly see something and go, oh yeah, I want to try out that game, and be able to download over the, while you're riding on the bus or the train or in your friend's car while you're catching a ride to work. So we want all of those things to make the game faster, make the game run better, We just sort of want quicker, faster, better, more, and again, to be much more iterative, and quite honestly, to also try and be even more transparent than we have been, for you guys to have more direct access to the devs, which I appreciate is a little ironic because it's just the two of us and not them. But we did just ask them to come down here yesterday when we did a thing, and they spent the whole day meeting with folks, and they're really busy right now. So we just felt like, hey, for this first one, we can answer some of the questions. This will be the first of this will be the first of any number of these that we'll be doing. They'll be out at E3, so if you're coming to E3, you can come by the booth and
say hi to us too.
We'll be there. We're happy to say hi, but you can meet guys like Andy, and I think Peter's coming. One of the design. So there'll be folks there you can meet and talk with them and get to know them.
And they're working pretty hard, so they might be exhausted, but they'll always make time to say hi to you.
Somebody asked how tight are the Sparkypants guys in terms of lore. It's actually one of the things we haven't had too much of a problem with, because everything, like we at Direwolf had a lot of catching up to do with the Elder Scrolls, because it's massive. Like there's decades of Elder Scrolls lore, but we have guys on our side like Brady. We have lore folks at both ZOS and at BGS who are there to answer questions, provide feedback, sort of nudge things to get on the right track. And I think it's one of the things that Direwolf has done awesome, is they've really done an amazing job with some of the card design and character design to pull out things out of the game, Adoring Fan, or different cards that sort of really, Sweet Roll, different things out of the Elder Scrolls games that manifest themselves really well into Legends, but keeping them on track lore and canon-wise is not actually their primary responsibility. It's actually a responsibility here at our different studios, where we sort of have lore masters that say, this is okay, this is not okay, in terms of what cards or races or whatever are appropriate for different cards and mechanics. So.
And that's probably a good segue, because you said cards twice in that sentence, to one of the most common, well, I mean, it worked. But Lego Luca asked one of the things that I've seen the most over the last 24 hours or so, which is, can you provide any reasoning or evidence to reassure players that future card design, specifically as it impacts game balance, will be consistent with the existing card catalog? A major selling point of the game is its best-in-genre balance across the archetypes and classes, at least in Constructed. Related, will there be any continuity on the design team?
I'll take that, I guess, in differing orders.
It's a pretty long one.
The first is, I don't really think that there's anything that I'm going to say to prove that out to you. I don't think there's anything that he's going to say. I don't actually know if there's anything that Sparkypants is going to say. I can tell you I have every confidence in that, in meeting with these guys and talking to them and the team that they've got and the team that they're building. I mean, the strategy card genre is one that is, it's more than a game or two wide. There's been a lot of them, and they continue to grow and do really well, which I think is great. I'm a huge Magic the Gathering fan. I run our leagues and stuff here at the office. So I know, and I play a lot other strategy card games, not just ours. There's a lot of designers and creators and pro players out there who have expressed interest in working with us and working with Sparky. I can't speak to the transition part. Sparky is another studio working on a game, and whether or not designers at Direwolf want to move over there to work is not up to me or him or anybody else. That's a personal decision. Obviously, we would love to have any of them that wanted to, because they're, we think they've done great work. But that's also not, it's not what a dev team is. Not just a handful of designers. Like
absolutely, even in the way it was with Direwolf, the amount of people working on specifically card design and development is a small portion of the overall ensemble and what goes into building an entire card game. And I, for one, I've been talking to Andrew about this, been talking to you. I'm confident they're working on building a team with all the capabilities of making good choices card design wise. It's going to be good. Yeah,
and look, part of it is definitely the upfront part and the design stuff, and part of it honestly is a numbers thing. Like you need really sort of analytical folks to look at it, where there's a design element to it, but it's also just sort of what are the numbers telling you, and being able to decipher, like, well, why is this deck so powerful, or so, and what is the right change to make. But it's pretty transparent and quick to respond. We and I mean we as an entire group, developer, publisher, community, marketing, have to be better at is being more responsive, quicker to react and to make changes and to continue to make changes.
Yeah, I've already had conversations with Peter at Sparky about a number of cards. I've just discussed their balance and things we could do in the future, and it's been really fun to just go back and forth there and have that dialogue about just ways to take cards. The team that is currently assembled seems competent, and they are still working on even furthering that.
Yeah, and
designers.
So somebody said like today's meta is the worst one, in my opinion. When will some card changes be made?
I've heard it's the best one too.
Yeah, we had a number of folks
across.
yesterday say how well they thought it was balanced and that there were viable decks at a variety of different levels.
But even on the same vein, of course, we realize that even a small 2 or 3 card balance patch can completely change things. So, do I have any official news on that or when they might be coming? No, but we think the meta itself is pretty balanced and varied. But of course, we're always thinking about ways to improve and
Oh yeah,
things.
for sure, and it needs to. Couple of quick ones scrolling back through the chat that I saw. Where did CVH get his list? He pulled that off of a bunch of questions that he found on Reddit, but we're obviously pulling questions off of the chat right now as well. Calatube asked, why it was necessary to rewrite the old code? Honestly, it was a case of not being beholden to choices or things that were done in the existing code base and not being able to get to a better place faster because of those changes. So, one of the things that we talked about yesterday was tournament and in-game tournament support. Gauntlets was not the only thing that we had ever envisioned would be the way to have in-game, in-client competitive tournaments, that we wanted to have single elimination, double elimination, sort of on-demand type events in the game client that folks could join, that folks could fire.
Well, guess what? You can see a mock-up of just that on the subreddit right now.
And so something like that, or something like getting to a thin client where it could be downloaded on a mobile phone without requiring a Wi-Fi because of the amount of data. Like, it can be tougher to get to those things if you are having to adhere to changes that were already made, as opposed to building it from the beginning with those things in mind, and not just those things in mind, but then, a whole host of things that are on our want list that come from you guys or that come from us, or in 99% of the cases, if I'm being perfectly candid, come from us and then are reiterated by you guys. Like, if you have an idea for something that you wanted, I assure you at some point somebody has thought about that. Somebody I saw, I can't find it in the thread, but they were asking about visual stuff. Like, hey, is there more you guys might do visually with like special effects and so forth? Again, absolutely. I do want to clarify, our commitment to all of this is that this transition is sort of, hey, we need to make this transition and then start to do all of these things one after the another. So the idea isn't, let's wait to do this until all of these things are done. It's, hey, let's make these transitions. We want to do some UI improvements to make the game easier to play, to make it faster to play, to make it more fun visually to play. But, all of these things that we've been talking about, again, even before you got here, but, I want to allow for more customization. I want you to have more choices. I was talking about this a little bit yesterday. Like, I don't play a lot of Constructed, as those of you who watch this stream know. I almost exclusively play Arena because I really enjoy Limited. Stop shaking your head. But but Constructed is really important, and I know that a lot of folks love it. And in the times when I do play Constructed, like when we did the Houses of Morrowind pre-release event, and of course I go to him and I'm like, hey, all right, I'm going to play in this, but I'm not building a deck. Tell me what to play. And he's like, okay, here, play this deck.
I sent him a screenshot.
You sent me a screenshot,
right?
So he had to send me a screenshot, and I had to build it from scratch. Well, it would be really damn nice if he just said, like, here's the deck, and I, could immediately pull it into the game. But more importantly, like, I want to customize that. Like, what's the deck image there? What avatar am I playing with this? And like, do all of those things go together? Playmat customization, having a lot more playmat options. Like, again, don't want you guys to get focused on the playmat that we've sort of been teasing or looking at, because that is not even close to our end goal. Our end
not
goal,
only is that not finalized, but that is one of many.
Yeah,
that
we want to do
have.
a thing where, like, I used the example yesterday and talking to some of the folks that were here. Like, I just played in a team GP here in DC with actually the lead QA guy, Eugene. On Legends and our licensing director.
Did that go well?
It did not. It did not go well, especially for me, because I lost every single round, all 5 before we dropped, and I won one game in 5 matches. But I had fun playing with them. The point I was going to make is the really fun thing is you sit down, there's 2,400, 2,500 people in this event, is everybody has a different play mat, and it's actually like a conversation starter. You know, I sit down across from a guy who's got a Rick and Morty Pick a Rick mat, and I'm playing with one from some GP before, like we're talking about each other's mat, and you know, I bring sleeves, and I use sleeves based on the deck that I'm playing. So when I play like a black-white deck, I grab my black sleeves instead of my blue sleeves because they're more thematically fitting. Like, we want you to be able, it's an Elder Scrolls game. Part of those games has always been it's about you and your choices. And so more customization for all of that stuff is, I think, really important, as opposed to, here's the thing we've decided to give you, and then you just have this. So again, I think the game is going to allow for a lot more of that as we go forward.
And wait, this says, MTG says, how about what type of new features do you plan on having implemented for the release of the new UI? I think we just kind of went over a good amount of them, you know?
Yeah.
And when can we expect this? Don't expect you to give a specific date, but maybe which month or quarter?
I mean, I think it's safe to say this summer is when we want it to happen.
Yeah. As soon as possible. They are working very hard. This is Sparkypants' main focus. If you guys did not know that, this is what they are doing, and they are doing it a lot. So as soon as possible, but we definitely want to make sure it hits a certain benchmark of quality. Like I said, we had a good amount of influencers in yesterday, and throughout the course of getting feedback on the things that we want to change moving forward, of course, there's a lot of those small little issues and card interaction bugs, which were just hilarious at times. Justin Larson played Hit and Run, and it did some things I've never seen in a card game before.
A couple other questions on here. Nikita, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, says he's asking, and he was not a big fan of the concepts. Sorry to hear that. But first, he wants the meta and gameplay supporting, and then things like visuals and animations are second place. CCG is all about gameplay. I don't disagree with you. Like, I mean, the reason that we think Legends is as beloved as it is because it's an incredibly solid, fun to play game, the mechanics of it. But to pretend like the visuals don't have an effect on the size of the community or the people who are interested in it is simply not true. I mean,
when Legends was first released, a lot of the more negative feedback wasn't my job to garner at that time, but it was easy to notice that a lot of the negative feedback was surrounding the fact that it was what it is on the Elder Scroll. It was limited to being on that scroll. People did not necessarily love the color scheme. It's always been something we want to do, like improve and iterate upon. And I think the reason that it's such a polarizing topic now is because the people who are playing and loving the Elder Scrolls Legends are the people who at this point are very used to that aesthetic.
For sure, for sure, and you get used to it. But again, I don't want you to focus on like, oh, well, I don't like the playmat. Well, the idea is that it's not the playmat. It's just a playmat, and that you will have a variety of options. And if you want to find, you know, a playmat that uses all 6 shades of brown, so that you can have the brownest playmat possible, maybe that's one we'll make available so that you can customize it. But we want it to be more dynamic. We want it to be
the playmat that was teased is pretty brown, if I remember correctly.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. It was like, it's like the wooden table. Yeah, that's good.
Is there anything in the works to make custom private matches happen? I mean, we touched on that a little bit, but again, yeah, like we want to do more for allowing players to do different things in their matches, and then also take that to the tournament level where you can have tournaments that aren't just, well, this is a single elimination 16-player, single elimination or double elimination, that you could set up different conditions, different rules. You could run a chaos arena version of Constructed or all kinds of stuff. So
will we get clicky things around the playmat?
Oh, please, God, I hope so. I'm sorry, but
we have them.
Yeah,
they're good.
Yeah,
they're fun.
But
they're not
more.
Intrusive. Yeah, here's the thing. You can click a little thing, it might light
and it's
up
an option.
here.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. It's not going to get in the way of any gameplay. I think in the peel back, hope I can just say it, in the peel back, you might see a little moth thing over in the left. You click it, it'll flap its wings. It's really cute. I'm a huge fan. All right, I might add more, but he didn't add more, by the way. Actually, maybe he did. As far as the UI goes, will it be more streamlined to ease and make navigation faster? And will there be an option to export, import deck lists? Yeah, we're doing that one.
Oh my God, do we need that?
Everyone just keeps saying that one.
Yeah.
But faster, streamlined UI, let
sure.
me tell you, when we were playing yesterday, that was one of the major positive feedbacks we got. Like in the main menu, clicking around the menus, lightning fast.
Yep.
Like these things just happen. No more waiting for things to fall.
And
whatever.
I think once optimized, we'll see that it's even better.
This is like the early alpha version, and it's still just switching through pages in your collection, different screens.
we want all of that to
Yeah.
be much easier, faster.
Yep.
Capgun Voltron asked a question. CVH, we were actually just talking about this
What's your stance
right
on
before we
Twitch
came
free
on.
broadcasts, or does Bethesda as a whole dislike the aspect? Well, this aspect of drops.
This
I was like, well,
aspect
we
of-
like drops because
we
we
like
created
drops.
them. So, Twitch free broadcasts and drops is a continuing conversation that we've had, not only with Twitch, but with Pete. Sean Baptiste is our new influencer manager. Shane is drops guy. So we've been this whole big conversation that we're having on different ways to do it.
It was a big point of conversation yesterday.
absolutely,
Like,
yeah.
let me assure you, we are not okay with it.
And
the
if,
way
if
it
for
currently
example,
is.
we were, then the influencers that came in yesterday would have told us how they feel.
But it has been a problem and an issue just today, just this afternoon, actually, within the last hour. Sean Baptiste was talking to Matt Grandstaff, our global community lead, about potential some ideas and some fixes to try and improve and
had
to
some good ones.
and to reduce abusing and folks that are just running rebroadcasts and so forth. The main thing is we want to do what Twitch drops, how we envisioned it being rewarded for streaming, and you get rewarded for watching people stream. I'm never a big fan of gaming the system and taking something that was intended to build and be positive and encourage the community and have it turned into something else. So, you have my word that our folks, our teams, are continuing to look at it. And again, part of this is in our control, part of it's not. But we are looking at a handful of things that we might implement even before this stuff comes out to try and deal with some
There
of
are
the
short-term solutions that we can work around now based on the logic of how Twitch Drops works and what's available to us. And of course, when the API changes and everything, there are other solutions and more long-term things we can think about.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit, but I've heard from streamers the concern about Sparkypants not having experience on card games. I would be a little careful on that because there's a major difference between a studio and whether or not they've shipped card game and the people at that studio and whether they've made a card game and have experience in that. And again, going back to it, like when we are talking about things like improving performance, like I don't need you to have experience working on a card game if you're a programmer and you're in charge of animations or custom effects or improving the UI. Like you need
people
to,
doing that now don't really have
you need
experience
to
in
like
professional
card games.
Yeah.
You need to understand them, but you don't have to have to have worked on card games exclusively in order to understand how to make a UI faster. So there's a lot of different pieces on a team, and we absolutely have to have that core. I'm not saying that we don't. If people who love card games, who have built card games, who live card games, and again, to their credit, they are all super into Legends and have been, and there's any number of them who have really been into other card games, whether it was participating or making them or working on them.
Yeah, and at a pretty high level. There are people on the team that I would feel comfortable with being part of that process of card design.
Yeah, but don't get caught up in this notion that like everybody has to have worked on a card game, otherwise like how could they possibly be of help? Like, yeah, the guy who's doing all the work to make tournaments work or to make the game run faster, we just need him to be really good at that. And that's part of what we've been really impressed with so far is how fast they adapt. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a giant list of just here's what we have to do to get the game done, but their ability to take that and then also look at it on a daily basis in terms of I just watched the card match and I see all of these things that could be better or faster or improved, and they add those things and they're able to iterate so quickly. I think that's just as important.
Important question, why did you quit partnership with ESL? That's just fake news. We did not.
We didn't stop. There's lots more coming. Just stay tuned.
Yep. Anyway, moving on to another Reddit question. How will changes affect the mobile experience? I only play mobile because of inability to have internet at my home. Someone asked us, how about the mobile client?
That I was referring to,
Yeah, how about the mobile client? Will it get a new UI as well, or is it left untouched? So this wasn't in the mock-ups you guys saw of like the main menu, but yes, it will look different. It will look
streamlined.
Yes, yeah, the same sort of style as you'll see in the PC version, but obviously things right now, if you play on mobile, a lot of it looks the same as it'll look on PC. It's just on your phone. Things on mobile are going to be laid out a little bit differently to make your thumbs happier. And so far, we're pretty happy with where that is. And we got a lot of feedback yesterday about potentially moving some things around in the main menu that you saw and the mobile ones, just to make it a little bit easier to find things.
How do you pronounce that?
Yeah,
Fio?
I'm gonna go.
Fio. Asked, are you planning to overhaul the current art or audio for cards? They've done some pretty awesome art. That relationship isn't changing. Absolutely not. Actually,
we love the art.
Pretty much all of the card art, if not all, I think it's 100%, actually happens through us, Bethesda, through Brady, who works for us. He came to us from Wizards, where he was for, I don't know, a decade and a half or something. He worked on Magic forever. And he is the guy who works with all the external artists that do the card art. We don't have any plans to change any of the existing art. As you saw in some of the ideas that we're working on for the cards, we actually want to maybe remove some of the frames and stuff that, and make some choices that allow even more of that card art to come through, because we see it so awesome.
Yeah, and I get a lot of questions about specifically the new aesthetic of the card too. I'd love to get Morgan to talk about it, because he is in charge of the art direction really, but one of the things that he did that I'm really sold on is removing those big borders. And let me tell you, when you finally start to get looking at a bunch of cards in front of you and you see those great artistic illustrations and the premium animations, those borders being gone and looking like a weathered edge of a card really makes the art stand out. You got to trust me on it for now, but you'll see him eventually soon enough, and hopefully you'll agree. I think it looks cool.
And you know, one of the things we do want to do that Sparky Pants is again committed to doing going forward is we also want to see if there's a lot more we can do with the sort of premium effects. Like, so if we were to go back to existing cards, we wouldn't necessarily change the art, but we might look to improve or add or enhance on some of those premium effects to make those even cooler or special. And I think we have some that are really great, but I think there's even more that we could do.
I have seen updates to premiums already, even in this early build. There's already a few that are different.
Somebody said, please answer this. Why did you not ask Direwolf to improve your game? I can't imagine what universe in which you think we wouldn't have asked for improvements or changes or iterations. But this is about what we think we need to do going forward to see changes or improvements in the way that we feel like is more responsive or reactive.
Oh, while we're on the subject of card art, there's some pretty impressive art on the playmat next to CVH. Well, I was going to give it away to the first person. No, we're actually going to give it away randomly. So this is a nice little mouse pad that we've had built. Some of the people here yesterday might have gotten some. We'll give this away at the end of the stream.
I like that.
I use one myself.
I've been using mine.
It's nice, yes. If you want a game like CVH and Pete, you just gotta have that.
The voice lines again, like I right now we are not trying to say stuff or content in the game is what this is about. So we might not change any of the VO or sound effects, or we also might want to. I think it's more about like wanting to add on top of, as opposed to.
Yeah, we don't really want to. For most things, we're not trying to replace things, just improve upon, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and look, I understand. There's some comments here and there about I like the playmat, I don't like the playmat. I like the new cards, I don't like the new cards.
All right, well, on the playmat, you guys have seen a corner of it, so I caution patience there.
But the point is that it's incredibly subjective. Somebody said it looks like it makes it look like everything else. I don't know if that's the case, but I don't think we're trying to make it look like everything else. I think we're just trying to do more with what we have. My thing has always been, I think we have amazing card art, and when Morgan came in, he was like, I do too, and I think there's a way to bring that more to life, and I think there's stuff that we can do with, again, not just one playmat, but with playmats plural, going forward to have cool, interesting playmats, but to also let those cards and the card art be more impactful and interesting, quite frankly, and not just for new players, but for existing players.
So Lateralis 19 comes at us with a handful of questions, which are cut off page to page, so good job for me. Lateralis asks, is going back and upgrading the premium art that simply have the golden shine on the list of things to do? That is a thing that I've seen being done. Is chat going to be upgraded with the implementation of the new UI? I believe that's definitely on the roadmap. We definitely want a functioning chat. Dual spectator mode for tournament casting. We've wanted that for
forever.
Yeah, so that's happening. Upgrade for mobile functionality. We've mentioned this a couple times, but should be fast, should be great, should be a thinner client, as you've mentioned. Net positives. We're not really in the business of trying to make things worse. So shorter
downtimes, smaller required downloads when we change things, to be able to do things without requiring you to download as much. Furrow asked, is the next content already produced, or will the change cause a longer content drought? We are already working on, we know what the next...
we know what it is and you don't.
but we know what it's going to be. As far as the timing for that, I think it's TBD. Like it depends on when this comes in and when that comes in.
But that does bring up an excellent overall point that we discussed yesterday too. We know the general consensus among all types of players and us is that we want a consistent schedule for the long-term future. This is an interesting time in Legends history because the development is switching, but going forward, when things sort of settle down, and after the E3 madness that we're experiencing, we would like to definitely
there's one that we talked about the other day as well.
Schedule. Which one?
This one.
An option to open all packs at once. Yeah, we definitely want that. That is something that we said it, Andrew was typing.
We feel your pain.
Yeah. I think you brought that up, actually.
I did.
No, you were like waiting for other people to say it, and you're like, all right, I'll say it. No one else will.
It actually was the most obvious when I did the preview event. And when we do those preview events, like sometimes, or like when I'm playing an early build, I'll get a build and I'll forget to ask QA what the command is to just give myself all the cards in the thing. And so the only way to do it was just to add packs to my account. I could give myself as much gold as I want. So I would buy packs and then I'd go, oh my God, I have to open all of these one at a time, like drag 1, 2, 3, like it's the most painful thing of all time. You open up you get a 60 pack of cards, like to be able to go through that much more quickly and stop and highlight the cards, like it's absolutely on something again.
I'm already bored just hearing about it.
Yeah, so again, whether that's on day 1 or day 15 or day 45, don't know, but Sparky has agreed, like, yeah, we have to get better at, the expeditious opening of volumes of packs. Sometimes you want to open up one and see, like, what's in this one pack.
Sure, have fun.
It's fine.
Or
a legendary pack. Sure,
it's fine.
The option
should be there.
It's more like when you're opening up 20, 40, 60, like that's just painful.
Okay, so someone also mentioned, I forget who it was in the chat, but someone said they're not talking about any major gameplay changes because there won't be any. Exactly. The game itself, as you know it, the gameplay of it, is the same.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the
like
rules and mechanics,
the rules and mechanics and
all
the
of
cards
that.
and the content is the same. The look and feel, like when you play the cards, and we want that to improve. But
there's another thing that you brought up yesterday. Do you want to talk about that?
Do you plan to release an in-game client with something like public ranking, most wins a spell sword, or just overall something fun like Khajiit killed this month? I don't know what's with the anti-Khajiit hate, but
that's more of a like, are we going to do like global profiles almost, like how many mud crabs killed or whatever?
Like
that one isn't as important as the first one, which is more like.
Definitely one of the things. This is like when I first met Sparky and was giving him a list of things that I knew people wanted. In-game leaderboards. I have the access to the current leaderboard. I know who at Legend so far. Spoiler alert, last I checked it was no one, so congrats to whoever gets there first. But I can see that in the MMR and everything. And I think people, especially at Legend, would like to see who the top 100, who the top 1,000 are, and see where they are, not only like based on a number, which is kind of arbitrary, but in relation to other people and see where they have to go. And speaking of that, arena leaderboards. There are people like Pete who really enjoy Arena, and maybe Pete wants to play 10 or 15 runs or something, and there's some arbitrary way to rank that, where at the end of the month you can say, wow, I was one of the top performing Arena players, and that would feel really cool and add a lot of validity to that kind of thing. And I did answer that question before I saw Furo ask it, because we've been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah, well, and not just that, but to take it a step further, again, I just played in a limited Grand Prix. I've played in a number of Pro Tour qualifiers and so forth for Magic. I can't do that for Legends. There are no sort of competitive tournaments beyond just have limited be the format as opposed to constructed. So again, I am excited about the idea that it's possible.
Absolutely. So let's move on to another great question from Reddit. Will we have a Sparkypants representative active on Twitch, Reddit, Al-American at some point? It was nice to have a dev chime in on a few topics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not just one, but multiple. Again, it was great to have American be part of the community. He still is. He always will be. It's his game design. Like, he can never not be a big part of what Legends is, because this is his brainchild. This is his baby. He made this game. But to have Sparkypants be visible is hugely important to us. We can't sort of talk about transparency and then not have you guys directly hearing from and talking to developers.
And it's important to them too. Yesterday at the summit, Andrew was saying that was his basically the favorite part of creating games, interacting with the community and really listening to feedback and just trying to iterate on that and make what the community wants come to life. And you know, a lot of the times the community does really need a developer's voice. I can only do so much, P can only do so much. For example, in the recent balance patch that happened with Nixox and Manacora, the feedback was overwhelmingly, well, I'm just going to say negative. It was pretty negative for starters there, and I was like, hey, we really need a dev to say something. And as soon as that happened a day or two later with Maricon with his wonderful post explaining what happened there, everyone loved it. They loved the transparency there, and that's something we definitely want to keep trying to do moving forward. Yep. And that's something they're fully prepared to do as well. Do we have anything in chat, or should I keep going?
I didn't see anything in particular other than apparently chat crapped out on some, or the stream messed up for folks, but apparently restarting it or refreshing it worked, so I think we can.
Yeah, this should all be up in a VOD. We might even put it on YouTube, just in case people want to
get
the
of
full.
Course. Yeah, sure.
So with the current client, the current deck tracker, and the import-export program used by many will no longer work. Is this something which is planned to be built into the new client? I wouldn't say a new deck tracker per se is planned to be built into the client, but with the changes to the API and everything that you've been talking about, it should make it a lot easier for third parties like that to develop those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's definitely important.
Somebody asked about spectate mode improved, so we don't have to rejoin into spectating after every game. The specifics of that, I think, is probably a little bit more technical than my level, but one of the things that I would like to do is improve spectating for folks like watching on Twitch, so that that we not only want to do API stuff to allow for deck building, deck sharing, sites to do all of this stuff, but also also to allow us to do stuff through Twitch to improve the viewing thing, so that you can interact with the board state of a stream that you're watching and see, well, wait a minute, what's the play history here? How do we get to this state? Or,
those type of extensions exist.
Yeah, like the dog was barking and I missed what happened last turn. Like how did this get that you could go back without having to ask in chat what happened? Like you could actually view the play history of the two people you're watching and see what happened. So there's a lot of stuff there I think we can do.
Will we still be able to buy everything with in-game gold?
Yeah.
We answered this before, but yeah, we're not changing the economy. We're not changing the gameplay. This is purely like quality of life stuff here.
The new player experience, again, I do think there are some things.
One of the first things for new players that they actually go through is the onboarding, the tutorial, and that is being worked on. So yeah, I don't like exact details.
To improve that process for sure.
Yeah.
Can we see the top 100 MMR while playing? Again, I think this is to Christian's earlier answer, which is rather than you guys having to go to Reddit or our forums to see the top 100, like we'd like to be able to show those leaderboards in the game. We'd like to eventually even be able to show them in real time, that you could see during any season what your rank is, where the top folks are, how
the information is there.
Yeah, so that's certainly something that we've talked about as well.
Yeah. The MMR thing is an interesting other discussion, whether or not that should be shown all the time or not. Personally, I'm in the camp of...
there's definitely arguments on both sides of it, why it's good and why it's not good. But all I can tell you is that there's actually, discussion around, if we do it, how
visible is it? When do you see it? Personally, I think for Legend, if you're there, it's probably okay.
Is there an increase in prices of any kind? No. Like the game is as it is.
Everyone, we're relaunching and increasing all the prices.
Expansions, packs, rewards, all of that stuff. The ability to buy with in-game gold is all staying the same.
Yep. My question is about Tesla's whole design flavor. I know that when changing the development team, the old UI and art design may have to change, but I don't want the new design to be some kind of space game or modern mobile game. I hope your whole design will still be the Elder Scrolls flavor. Will the team design better flavor, or the picture that you showed us is the last version of the game? Well, it's definitely not the last version. It continues to be iterated on.
Yeah, but the other thing I will disagree on is that it's not Elder Scrolls. Like, that is actually directly inspired. If you don't think that's Elder Scrolls, I don't think you ever looked at your skills while you were playing Skyrim, for example, because the entire presentation of that was actually looking to the heavens and seeing, what your character could do. Or in Elder Scrolls Online, if you're speccing a character, you get a very similar view. So the notion that comes out of left field and isn't Elder Scrolls related is a bit misleading, because it's pulled directly from previous Elder Scrolls games and how they've presented information, shown you your character, that kind of thing.
You don't have to be on a scroll to be Elder Scrolls, and that
This is
opens up
very
a
true.
lot of design space.
And you don't have to be putting down scrolls on scrolls
So many
to be an
scrolls.
Elder Scroll.
You can literally play a scroll on top of a scroll. That's already a little bit too many scrolls in my opinion. That's just me though. Yeah, someone else asked if the new UI we've seen is final, specifically talking about design, colors, and layout. I believe the colors of the main menu are like more or less locked, but like the layout itself is still a work in progress. We got a lot of feedback yesterday. I saw Andrew typing there's like a gigantic Word doc somewhere, and they're definitely improving a lot of things. Definitely a good amount of time to go before these things are actually finalized. And even when it's released, even when this comes out and you guys can all play it, we're still going to take in feedback. That's one of the benefits. These guys are going to listen. They're going to be like changing things that you want to see. We're going to talk about how to make it continuously better. There's never a time in which the game is done being developed, really. Any card stats, win rate for cards played on curve?
Well, remember we
I don't
talked
know.
about the idea of whether or not at some point, and again, this is a much further down the road thing, but it is an idea that we have kicked around, which is that you could track specific information about a card, that when you play a lightning bolt or you see somebody playing a lightning bolt, that you could see how much damage they've done to face with that lightning bolt, how many creatures they've killed, how many legendary creatures, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How many times you accidentally hit yourself in the face with the lightning bolt.
That's a stat only a few of us have a number for.
Stuff like that. So again, it's something we've talked about, but we have never lacked for ideas or asks. And so I think the exciting thing is to be able to to get to a point where we start to maybe bring out little things here and there a little bit faster.
You will lose nothing that you have bought.
Nothing changes.
No.
So
no negative
your
implications for the player.
account is not related to the client. That gets stored over here somewhere else. It gets updated on a second-by-second basis, and whenever we go into maintenance mode, all that information gets frozen in time in terms of what you owned, how much you have of packs and currency and all of that stuff. And when you come back up, it'll all still be there and be the same. So you lose absolutely nothing.
Yeah. The idea of this change is to not make it worse for the players. All right, let's see. After Heroes of Skyrim, I was unable to play for about a year, but in that time, there's only been one major expansion and one minor expansion. I understand that part of this move is to bring more frequent content updates, so will we see more than one major expansion a year? Is there also the possibility of unused card designs from Direwolf being used for monthly reward cards or as part of future expansions? Probably not for that last part, but I definitely have talked about the consistency of releases, and we're in, again, a bit of a flux period right now, but moving forward, we definitely want to have a transparent roadmap that contains different kinds of expansions that we talked about. Yesterday, players gave opinions on which kind of expansions they liked, and they like a lot of different kinds of expansions, so it'll be fun to develop that moving forward.
Yeah.
Got anything?
Nope.
Okay. Can we expect periodic balance patches?
You should.
Yeah.
I mean, when needed, we absolutely should do them.
They're a little busy right now, but we have even talked about card balance already.
Sure, but again, this doesn't preclude, if there's a balance change needed between now and whatever that Direwolf think needs to be done, then we should make those changes. We're not waiting for any point to go, oh no, don't make any. If we need balance changes, we should make balance changes.
Absolutely. Are you planning to add some better monthly reward cards for players who push Legend rank? That's definitely something we could do, yeah. All kinds of things are possible. Did you see any other?
Will monthly card rewards stay? Again, every mechanic, everything that you know isn't going away. It's just what can we add and bring to the game to improvement, including lots of stuff, quite honestly, that you guys haven't even asked about.
Can you buff Nyx Ox? I saw Turquoise Link tweet that he thought Nyx Ox Telvanni was the best deck yesterday.
There you go.
So talk to Link.
There you go.
He's in charge of Nyx Ox now. Yeah, so if you guys have any more questions, feel free to get them in. If there's something we've already answered, of course, this will be up as well later, so you can go through and just watch the whole thing, get an idea of what's going on.
Sure. Yes, a couple of folks have asked about the max level. I mean, I guess we could, but the larger question is like, why? If you just arbitrarily increasing it from 50 to 60, but it has no tangible meaning or benefit, then it doesn't really mean anything. So I think anything that we did there would probably be an eye towards improving or changing what those ranks mean and what it means to get there.
Yeah.
And again, for me, the bigger thing is like, how do we make your monthly online interaction, moving up in ranks, how do we make that more meaningful and visible so you can actually see where you line up? How do we make it actually a thing in Arena where you have a reason to try and reach a rank, that it's not just, well, when a set comes out, we reset you and move you back a couple, but is there something that we could do there on a monthly basis?
Yeah. Is there going to be local customization? Client-based voice line changes, for example. I don't know about that. Like things you can customize yourself. There will be a lot more opportunities. Yeah, I think you asked that earlier. If you're looking for like things to customize,
like where you could change your own stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see a universe.
Our goal is to give you enough options to where you don't really need to. We're going to give you more options for customization for sure. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I understand that. Somebody said a lot of games have level caps and don't have them, and you just increase for the sake of increasing it. Like, sure. I mean, I guess you could just untether it and have it go forever and ever. But part of it is also for us that, how do we do that? If we're going to do that, how do we do it and also make it mean something?
Yeah. Someone asked, will there be different backgrounds, like the scroll, but a different background? Well, you won't always be playing on a scroll. That's the thing. So there will actually just be different game boards and different things. Period.
The play mat should be a variety of different, things. Not even just, well, here's a thing, and then here's 8 different variations of this one thing. Like, how do we give you other, where you're deciding, do I want to play on this kind of themed play mat or that? And not just do you see it, but does the person playing against you see it? Like,
yeah, and speaking of that, someone mentioned card backs. Will your own card back be always visible on the table? In the current version I've seen, yeah.
Yeah,
and it looks pretty good.
much more visible, and again, more ability to do some expression there in terms of like, well, I'm playing with this kind of deck, I want this kind of card back because it fits, thematically.
Yeah, and of course, no one asked this, but people have always wanted to be able to assign card backs to specific decks. Something we might have you be able to do. Assign avatars even, maybe. Who knows?
Yep.
All that stuff is definitely within the realm of possibility.
What's the season progress thing showing the screenshot of the new menu? Well, yeah, I guess that would be considered a new feature since that's not something we have now. We probably will hold off on talking about what that is or might be later on, I think.
Yeah, there might be some stuff in that that's, like, I think something about a weird number of gold that I might not have even noticed. I don't really know. I don't really know what all of that is about.
There's a lot right now to take in.
Yeah, that might have actually been an older mock-up, but that is what it looks like currently, at least.
Charmer asks a burning question that, honestly, I think everybody in the chat was wondering, but he was brave enough to ask.
Who is the best person you spoke to yesterday, and why is it me?
I think asked and answered.
Yeah, I guess so. Any plan for new avatars? Yeah, people always love asking about the new avatars.
New avatars, new deck images,
Yep.
All of the things, much more customization.
Much more customization.
Anything else that we didn't get on the Reddit chat list?
I don't think so. I went through everything I had. Anything from the client to the new content, all kinds of things. What does it mean? That's all things we went over.
I mean, we're getting a few more questions, but to be honest with you, some of this stuff we answered earlier in the chat. I don't want to just sort of take up everybody's time and keep re-answering questions that we answered before. So we will obviously put this up so folks can go through if you missed it and scrub through and see what other questions we asked. But again, we'll have more stuff to talk about at E3, maybe some new things to talk about.
Maybe.
We'll obviously continue to communicate with you guys as it relates to this. We know it's a change. We know it's a, that it can be a little scary for sure. But I am super excited. I have worked on and been a part of this game for 7 years. Within this company, there's nobody who's worked on Legends longer than I have, and I am incredibly excited about the future of this game, where it can go, what's in store for you guys, what's in store for us. I guarantee you, I promise you, it will never go 100% smoothly. Nothing ever does, but I think we have a good past. I think we have a good plan, and I think we have ability to be really flexible and change and respond and pivot to feedback. And so I'm really excited. You haven't been working on it as long as
I have not.
I have. You haven't even been playing on it. as long as I have.
Well, I couldn't. That's not even a fair thing.
By the way, really important to point out there, we're finally in a new room.
We are in a new
We are
room.
no longer in my old office from like 4 offices ago. Like, Wes is sitting way over there. He's got a nice comfy chair and some room to move. It's not 145 degrees in here. We're not in a
stick
basement.
out my legs without hitting the desk.
Yeah, this is awesome.
It's beautiful.
We can't. This is one of the first streams we've done in here. Obviously, we did our 76.
Been pushing for this since I got here.
Yeah, so we're really excited about this. It's still early days and setting stuff up, but we're gonna continue to be using this. It's going to be exciting times.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys all for joining us. Again, we always appreciate all the support that we give us. This game is nothing without you guys. CVH and I could play this 24/7. It's not enough for this game to be strong and viable. So everything that we're doing here is for you guys to have the best possible game, not just now, but going forward forever. And while it might feel a little scary, I think when it's all said and done, you guys are going to be really pleased, and you have our promise, our commitment that we will continue to listen, to answer questions the best that we can, to share information every opportunity that we get. Yeah, I guess the next time we see you guys will be at E3.
Yeah, at E3, and of course we do these official streams usually every Friday at this time, 3 p.m. So be sure to mark it on your calendar. But we got E3 coming up, so it's going to be a little bit, but we'll be back after E3 for these official streams.
Are you going to give that mouse pad away to somebody?
Oh, we probably should. I was going to forget, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest.
You're going to keep that for yourself?
I might have enough. of these mouse pads.
I
But let's pick a random
you well
winner.
enough that you don't need the eBay stuff, CVH.
Okay, yeah, that's where it's gonna go. You got me. All right, we have it. The Elder Scrolls Legends official mouse pad. It's big, a lot of space. One winner.
One winner? What's that?
What? He doesn't. How are we gonna do this? Or how are you gonna do this?
How are we going to do this, Wes?
Yeah, Wes.
Yeah. Pick somebody at random.
Oh.
Tell us who it is,
Just
and
shout
we'll repeat the name. Shout.
Yeah, shout it. Pick someone random in the chat. Like in the
Wes
chat
doesn't
list.
have control of our screen
Yeah.
here like he used to, where he could put stuff up. I'm controlling this, so he can't throw stuff over. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to say
Wes
me.
doesn't know any of you, so no favorites.
He's not interested in your waffles, awfuls, raffles, or me's. All right, Wes, pick a name. Tell us who it is.
Elder Var.
Elder Var?
Yes.
Congratulations,
Elder
Elder
Var.
Var.
You have a sweet playmat / mouse pad, Houses of Morrowind, courtesy of that guy.
Yep.
Congratulations, it's awesome. Christian will follow up with you afterwards
Absolutely.
on how we get it to you. So are you streaming next Friday?
I'll be a little bit gone.
You'll be out with us.
I will be.
So literally the next time you will see us will be June 10th. What time is our thing again? 6:30.
Sure.
6:30 West Coast.
Yeah.
9:30 Eastern. Whatever time that is where you are. Tune in and watch for Legends and Rage 2 and Fallout 76 and a whole bunch more from
All
Bethesda.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Until then, thank you guys. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you next time.